You know those giant windowless buildings you see lining the highway? We kind of just think of them as big, boring boxes, right? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain. Because a warehouse isn't just a box. It's this incredibly complex, finely tuned machine. And it's designed for one thing and one thing only, making money. So let's dive in and see how this invisible machine actually works.
But to really get it, first we've got to answer a question. What's the single most important, yet almost totally invisible object in the entire global supply chain? And no, it's not the shipping container, and it's not the barcode. The answer, it turns out, is a concept called the unit load. This is the core principle of all modern logistics. You handle a single common unit of material at one time. You know, everything inside a warehouse, from how high the ceiling is to how wide the aisles are, it's all dictated by the size and shape of this one thing. It's kind of like the ghost in the machine. And that unit load, it's almost always this, the humble wooden pallet. Seriously, every single thing you buy, from your phone to your groceries, has probably spent some time sitting on one of these. The pallet, that is the true building block of commerce. It's the atom of the entire warehouse universe. So here's the key thing to remember. A warehouse isn't just a place to store pallets. It's an economic engine, and every single design choice inside that box is about pulling two very powerful levers to squeeze out as much profit as possible.
So, how do you turn that simple box into a profit machine? Well, first we'll look at the two big economic levers that drive every single decision. Then we'll get into the high-stakes game of space optimization. After that, we'll crack the code on the labor puzzle. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together to create the perfect layout.
Okay, let's start with those core mechanics. At its heart, the entire science of the box is just a constant balancing act. It's this tug of war between two opposing forces, making money and saving money.
So this is basically the entire business model in a nutshell. On one side, you've got revenue. A warehouse charges its clients rent for the physical space each one of those pallets takes up. So more pallets in the building means more money. Simple. But on the other side, you've got costs. And the biggest cost is the labor it takes to move those pallets around. The real genius of warehouse design is finding that perfect sweet spot, squeezing in the absolute maximum number of pallets while minimizing the time it takes a worker to touch any single one of them. All right, let's dig into that first lever, space. Maximizing revenue means you have to maximize the number of pallets you can fit inside that building. And believe me, this is a game of inches. And it all starts with one fundamental decision. Do you stack your pallets directly on the floor, or do you invest in those massive industrial shelves, what they call pallet racks? Now, floor stacking is cheap, right? No equipment costs. But if your products are fragile, or if they can't be stacked very high, you are just wasting all that valuable airspace, all the way up to the ceiling. Pallet racks, on the other hand, they cost a ton up front, but they let you use every single cubic foot of the building, and they keep the product safe. And you can see the problem right here. A wobbly stack like this, that isn't just a safety hazard. It is an economic disaster. Think about it. That one unstable pallet might need 2 forklifts to handle it safely. That just doubled your labor cost for a single move. And if the product gets damaged, well, that's just pure loss. Pallet racks, though, they turn all that potential chaos into profitable, predictable order. But of course, trying to cram in more pallets creates this fascinating and really expensive problem that I had never even heard of before. It's called honeycombing. This is that ghost in the machine we were talking about. It's space that is totally empty, but completely unusable. Okay, here's how it works. Just imagine a really deep storage lane, and it's full of pallets of the same kind of soda. So when you ship out the front pallet, you create an empty spot. But now you can't put a different product, say bottled water, in that empty spot because it would block all the soda sitting behind it. That empty space is now honeycomb waste. It's totally useless until you sell all the soda in that entire lane. And this really gets to the core dilemma. As the source material puts it, deeper lanes produce more pallet storage locations, but they are of diminishing value. In other words, yeah, you gain more storage spots, but each new spot is less flexible and way more likely to become that wasted honeycomb space. You're basically trading valuable aisle space for less valuable, much less accessible storage. It's a really tricky balancing act. So that's the space game. Now let's pull that second lever, labor. This is all about minimizing the cost to handle each and every pallet. And the biggest cost by far is the time a forklift driver spends just driving around. Okay, so a forklift can operate in 2 basic ways.
The most common way is called single cycle. You take a pallet, you put it away, and then you drive back with empty forks. In that model, at least half of all your driving time is what's called deadheading, which is just driving around with nothing. It's pure waste. You're paying for fuel, you're paying a driver's time, but nothing is actually being moved. But the holy grail, where things get really smart, is called dual cycle. After a driver drops off a pallet, the system immediately sends them to a nearby spot to pick one up. I mean, imagine cutting out nearly all of that wasted travel time. That is a massive, massive cost saving.
The other huge labor saver is just smart placement. And the logic behind it is actually beautifully simple. The products that move in and out the most often, what the industry calls high turns, they should get the best parking spots. It's that simple. You basically calculate the total travel distance for every single pallet location in the warehouse. Then you give the best spots, the ones with the absolute shortest travel path, to your fastest moving stuff.
So now we've got our two big levers, maximizing space and minimizing labor. Now let's see how they come together to dictate the entire blueprint of the warehouse, starting with the most basic decision you can make. Where do you put the doors? Well, there are two main philosophies here. A flow-through design puts your receiving docks on one side of the building and your shipping docks on the complete opposite side. This creates a really consistent flow with lots of locations that are all pretty good, but none that are truly amazing. On the other hand, you've got a U-flow design, which puts receiving and shipping right next to each other. Now, this creates a few spots of what you could call prime real estate. They're incredibly convenient, but it makes the spots on the far side of the building much less convenient. And the choice between them depends entirely on what kind of products you're moving.
And you can really see the difference when you look at it this way. Think of these as heat maps of convenience. The flow-through layout has this wide, consistent band of pretty good locations. The U-flow, though, concentrates all the convenience right there by the dock. So if you've got a few superstar products that make up most of your shipments, like in the fashion world, U-flow is perfect. But if all your products move at a pretty similar pace, then flow-through is probably the safer bet.
So far, we've only been looking at warehouses with these simple, straight 90-degree aisles. But what if we could break that rule to save even more time and money? Check this out. This is called the fishbone layout. By angling the aisles toward a central shipping and receiving dock, you create more direct, shorter paths for the forklifts. It's a really clever design that can cut down travel times by up to 20%. And over the life of a building, that is a massive savings in labor costs. So as we've seen, every single decision in warehouse design is a trade-off. There's always a give and take. You can get more space with deeper lanes, but you risk wasting it to honeycombing. You can save a ton on labor with dual-cycle operations, but that needs a really sophisticated IT system to run it. You can create super convenient locations with a U-flow design, but only at the cost of making other spots less convenient. The point is, there's no single perfect design. There's only the perfect design for a specific set of products. The world of logistics is pretty much invisible, right? It's built on that humble pallet and it's perfected inside these giant, unassuming boxes. So the next time you see a delivery truck, or maybe the next time you click Buy Now, maybe you'll think about the incredible science of the box, that silent, super efficient, and perfectly tuned machine that makes our entire modern world possible.